Toma nota, de uma maneira relâmpago, Israel a decidir de tomar ação na região e vai ter algum comentário sobre o que está acontecendo no momento aqui. Então, para nós está muito importante nos invitado para saber que nós temos cidadão de Israel e não somente cidadão de Israel, sino veterano também do exército de IDF. Então, para mim, com grande prazer, introduzir Senhor Moshe Hakimi. Moshe, thank you for accepting the invitation.
Sure, thank you for having me here.
I know the entire conflict ongoing at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
I imagine you have it exactly in your head.
Constantly.
By detail.
Yes.
Constantly.
Yeah.
But before we get into the program, share a little bit about yourself, about your career, your service in the IDF, and why Aruba has you here at the moment.
So I was born in Israel, 1969. Just like every other kid in Israel, at 18, I had to draft to the army. Like many of my friends, I wanted to go, and so I volunteered to a specific unit. I served there for 3 years, and I've been pretty much in all these places in the news. I happened to be there as well. Luckily for me at the time, it wasn't so active. It was the late 80s, early 90s, and it wasn't so active. But I remember being in all these places, and I remember telling my mother that we're going to make peace with them. We're going to try at least to make peace with them, because I saw where it's going. At one point, everybody want to make peace at one point, especially in Israel. That's how we grew up. We want to make peace. So they attempted to make the peace agreement in 93. And then it didn't go that well. But this is what happened back then. As far as how I got to Aruba, so in 92, after my army service, I went to work with my family in the jewelry business, and they had an opportunity to start opening jewelry stores in the Caribbean, and they asked me to go to St. Martin and worked in St. Martin and open a jewelry store. That was 1993, so I went down there, and then the company grew up and expanded, and we started opening more and more stores all over the Caribbean. So as time passed by, I became a regional manager for the company, and I oversee 5 different islands. One of them is Aruba, which is my favorite.
Yes.
So I come over here quite often. We have a great team of people over here, and it's an incredible island. I love Aruba. It's really a very special island, really beautiful in all aspects of a Caribbean island, because I've seen many of them. I walked in many of them, so Aruba is really very, very special. But again, I travel to Israel every year, several times. I always follow the political situation, and there's always some kind of a war or an operation or an attack. It's every Israeli, you go up with that. From one hand, you want peace and you don't want to fight. On the other hand, you're being attacked, so you defend yourself. So Israelis and the Israeli army actually became very, very good at defending ourselves. And I remember many times I had a discussion with friends, and told me, how come Israel always won the war? Because he had a war in 1948, and in 1967, and in 56, and 73, and it's always war, and you're always winning. And I told them, every soldier that go to war in Israel, he knows that if we lose that war, that means
it's the end of the country.
His father, his mother, his sister, his wife, his kids, they will be killed. They will be killed, just like we saw on October 7th. So you fight with everything. Mm-hmm. You really fight with everything you have. So that's why Israel don't have a choice. They have to win the war. So that's how it happened.
Just to go to some key wars and conflicts which involve Israel since 1948. We have the 1948 Arab-Israeli War. That's a war of independence.
Yes.
And then we have the Swiss crisis, the Sinai War,
Yeah.
which was in October 1956.
Yes.
And then you have the the very famous Six-Day War,
June 67.
June 1967. The Yom Kippur,
Yeah.
that was in 1973.
October 73. Yeah.
The South Lebanon conflict, 1978.
Yeah.
The Lebanon War, the first Lebanon
first
War,
one, 82.
1982. And the first Intifada, 1987. The second Intifada, 2000. And 2006, the Lebanon War. And on Gaza wars, we have about 5.
Yes.
So
About 5 of them. Yes.
as we round up all these wars here, we have close to 20 wars, different wars,
Yeah.
within this short time.
Yes. Yeah. And I can tell you about
Why?
each one of them.
Why so many wars? I mean, why would you say that that piece of land belongs to Israel? In what way will you defend that?
So
We got to go far behind.
we go very, very far. I'm a Jew. Okay. And it's a known fact. The Jewish religion was born 5,000 years ago. Okay. And it's proven historically and documented the direct connection to Israel, the direct connection
To that piece of
to
land.
that piece of land. Okay, Jerusalem is, by all account, by all history documentation, all archaeology digging, everything, the Jews built it. The Jews were there first, before anybody else. Before anybody else, all the other cities that you have, the ancient cities, the Jews were there. Many empires came. The Babylonian came and conquered the country and took the Jews to the first diaspora. And they took it all away, and then they came back years later and built the first temple. Then they had it for about 70 years, and then the Roman came in and conquered the country. There was a big rebellion, and there was the second diaspora. And they expelled all the Jews, almost all of them, from Israel. And then this way you had Jews all over the world. You have Jews in every Arab country. You have Jews in Russia. You have Jews all over Europe. That's why. It was 2,000 years that they lived over there. And in the around the end of the 1800s, there was a new movement within Jews to go back to Israel. And they actually start coming back to Israel because they saw what's happening. There was a lot of, all these 2,000 years that Jews lived all around the world, they were never really accepted. They never had equal rights. They were persecuted. They were limited. There were many pogrom lynches that Jews have been killed, accused, taken away from them. And it culminated, of course, with Germany, with World War II.
Correct.
With the final solution of the Nazis, which basically attempted and almost succeeded of killing all the Jews. They killed 6 million Jews. So in the late 1800s, Jews started coming back to Israel. And then at the end of World War II, when really they have nowhere to go anymore, they start going back to Israel. And they start going back to Israel. And in 1948, the United Nations recognized Israel and voted to have a country. And from that point onward, I mean, there were skirmishes before, there were lynches before inside Israel before that, because the British were there, and there were Arabs over there also, so they were fighting even from before that. But once Israel was established, all the Arab nations around it refused to accept it. And they refused to accept it because it was Jews. That's the sole reason, because it was Jews. And they decided, okay, this is a young country. There's no way they can resist us. We are so much bigger than them.
Correct.
It was Jordan, it was Iraq, it was Egypt, it was Lebanon, it was Syria. They all said, no, don't worry, we're going to chase these Jews out, we're going to fight them, and they declare war on Israel. Israel back then had 600,000 people. And they went to war. And they really didn't know what's going to happen. But they had no choice. Because I told you, if you lose, you lose everything.
You lose your family.
Your family, you lose everything. So they fought very hard. They fought very smart also. And they won. And then they won, and a lot of changes were happening there. People were moving. People were changing the way they live. They didn't capture Jerusalem. Jerusalem was still held by the Jordanian. And then from 1948, there wasn't peace. So they won, so they were able to stay, but there was constantly skirmishes. There were people, there were armies or units infiltrating from Jordan, from Egypt, and killing Jews. And then the 56 operation came, 1956.
But most still during the first years of establishment, from the Jews in the Promised Land,
Yes.
there was peace. There was peace because many of the poor Arabs in the region were getting jobs, were being employed by the development that was starting in Israel.
So what happened in
And
40?
those people that came, I read a book about that subject. They acquired the Palestinian nationality, but they were living together with Israel, with the Jews all the time, working together. And there were peace. They were sharing the beach until the PLO came.
Yeah.
That's another story.
That's a whole other story. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. By the way, when Israel was established,
But there was a time of development
coexistence.
and the
Yes.
coexistence,
And it still exists till
Yes.
today, because
Yes.
what happened in 1948, there were Arab living in the area where it was established as Israel. Some of them during the war left because the Arab leaders told them, leave, don't worry, you're going to be able to come back. They left. And those became refugees eventually. But the one that stayed basically became Israeli citizens. So Israel now have 10 million citizens,
Arabs.
10 million citizens altogether. 2 million are Arabs, different sect of Arab, but they're Arabs, and they are they're citizens like everybody else.
Right.
They have full rights like everybody else. They pay taxes, they work.
Okay, so we have 2 million Arabs
They live in Israel.
living in Israel.
They are citizens like everybody else.
Like
over
any
there.
other-
They have full rights. They pay their work. They pay taxes. We have a Supreme Court judge that is an Arab. They're Knesset member. They have full representation in the Knesset. So, and they live, for the most part, they live in full coexistence. And then the one in Judea and Samaria, this is the part where it became eventually the Palestinian Authority.
You know, when we read how Israel came about
Yes.
to be, most of the tribes or the Jews living in other countries start going back home.
Yes.
They were going back home, but there was a question which were the best immigration that came and settled back in the country. And it was a surprise to hear or read that they were the Jews that were in Russia.
Yes.
The Jews that were in Russia were expelled from Russia back to Israel. And then who did they send? And they were all these professors, biologists,
Yes.
scientists.
Yes.
And they were sweeping the streets, not knowing what to do. And the big nation that now is called Israel was built by all of these knowledgeable people
Yeah.
that are still there.
Yeah, they were the first one to came. They were extremely idealistic, extremely. There's nothing else besides of really idealism. And they came to the country, and it was hostile because they had to basically become farmers. They had to work there. There was nothing there. There were no cities. There was no structure. There was no institution. There was nothing. Barren. They just had that belief, that belonging to the country, and they believe, okay, this is it. It's time to start coming back to Israel. And they start going and basically building small settlements, small villages, start working the land, drying swamps. Many of them died. Many of them got sick, but they never gave up. They hang on, and then more and more were coming. That was in the late 1800s, beginning of the 1900s, and then as World War II happened, then you start getting a lot of them to come more and more and more and more.
Indeed.
Yeah.
How would you describe Israel in these times that we're living in? Of course, a lot of us that never been there, or at least are influenced by what we see in the news. And I see many groups that are against Israel continually,
Yes.
you know, and especially with the Gaza wars.
Yes.
The world is polarized.
Very.
You know, there's a very big segment that has a very wrong and bad opinion of what's going on.
Right.
How would you put Israel in the right perspective at this moment?
I think what's happening when you look from the outside at Israel and you look at it through the news channels, so the news channel will show you a small window of something that is very, very, very big. And if you choose to make an opinion by looking through a small window on a very big landscape, no matter what, you won't see the whole. And your opinion won't be the right one. It won't be accurate. So to put it in perspective for Gaza, for example, go back a little bit in the history, okay? Gaza belonged to Egypt. When Sadat came to Israel to make the peace agreement, Begin gave him the whole Sinai desert, and Egypt refused to take Gaza. They didn't want Gaza because there were all the Palestinians living over there, and they kind of knew it was going to be a headache. They didn't want Gaza.
But nobody wants Gaza, really.
Nobody wanted
because Jordan doesn't want Gaza either.
No, absolutely not. So,
they were already in Jordan.
No, that was Judea and Samaria were in Jordan. Mm-hmm. Gaza doesn't have a mutual border with Jordan. Only Egypt have a mutual border. There's the ocean, Israel, and Egypt on the southern side. So it fell on the side of Israel, and Israel had a military rule over there until the first Intifada. The first Intifada happened, and then there was a lot of pushback from the Palestinian, and from 1987 till 2005, the Palestinian and the Israelis were fighting. There was settlement in Gaza, and they were fighting. There was a lot of bloodshed on both sides. Mm-hmm. And then Ariel Sharon came. Ariel Sharon, to anybody who doesn't know, was one of the most hawkish political figures in Israel. He because of him, Israel won the October War. He went deep over the Suez Canal, which almost all the way to Alexandria, and he was always very, very, very hawkish. But he himself eventually recognized, okay, Israel cannot control this. We cannot really be over here this whole time and control these people. They don't want us over here. We need to cut our losses and leave. Just leave. And it was a very, very big thing in Israel. It really polarized the country. Remember, I went through it. I used to have big fights with my own family. No, we shouldn't do it. We shouldn't leave it. I don't know. We need to leave it. Leave it. Let's get out of there. Let them have it. Let them have a country of themselves. Because me and many other people believed, okay, if they're going to have their own country, okay, things were going to come. We're going to have peace. So in 2005, it was a very big event in Israel because the army had to go there and evacuate by force about 20 settlements. Israelis that lived over there, built their home, built agriculture, built beautiful places. They just pulled them out completely, took them out, and gave everything to the Palestinians.
Would you say that Ariel Sharon was a necessary figure at the moment?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And then I have to ask you the following question.
Yeah.
Netanyahu has been in turmoil, political turmoil for some time. But
yes.
that is the guy that the responsibility has been put upon his shoulders to handle one of the biggest crises that Israel is handling at the moment.
It's not the biggest.
And it's him.
I know. It's the most important war. This war will determine the future of the whole region, will determine if there will be peace in the world, especially in that region.
Correct.
If that war will end in the right way, where there's a change of a regime in Iran, then this can be possibly the last war that Israel will fight. There will be peace with Iran, there will be peace with Syria, there will be peace with Lebanon, there will be peace with Saudi Arabia. There's already peace with Jordan, there's already peace with Egypt, and a lot of things will change. And that will benefit the whole region. Israel is a very, very advanced country. There's a lot of innovation over there. It's a very, very small country, but it's very advanced. If there is peace, everybody will benefit from it. Everybody in the region will benefit from it. Israelis have no desire to conquer
and most of the Arab world acknowledges that.
And most of the Arab world
acknowledges that now.
Yes.
Televidentes, aqui do programa Alcaso, para que nós renta tem tema mês de Irã, nós vai para nos break, pero nós vai para nosso invitado Moshe Hakimi, a conversar um tique riba subida e tapone uma perspectiva de Israel. Kiko tanto a passa e não não se chega no momento nada. Que sei mais, vamos ver, não vai deu. Nós seguimos pues com o tema de lo que está a guerra de Irã, Israel, Irã. Então, nós vai para nosso invitado com Gaza está um rol den guerra aqui. Então nós vai pedimos conectar e Duitsland, quatro países ou grupo terrorista que está apoiando o Irã e que a bringa namens Irã de certa atividade de guerra. How can you explain the entire structure to which Israel is against at the moment?
Right.
When we say Gaza, we know Gaza is Hamas, and they have their own agenda.
Yes.
Maybe, but then we continue hearing that it's the proxy army from Iran. How can you put it in the right perspective?
Okay, so the revolution in Iran happened in 1979, and then
That was the time when they kidnapped the
American hostages with Jimmy
American
Carter.
hostages crisis.
Yes, and it was a complete disaster for the U.S. Anyhow, that happened. They took hostage the American embassy. It took, I think, over almost 2 years before they were released. But from the get-go, from the beginning, the rhetoric and the aim of that regime was really focused on Israel. They were talking about it, but they couldn't really focus on Israel, because what happened immediately in 79 is Iraq, which is a neighboring of Iran, saw this new regime, which is Shiite, okay, as a big threat for Iraq, and declared war on them. And they fought a bitter war for 7 years. Millions of people died, and eventually Iraq became the winner. After that, Iran wasn't really aiming for a nuclear weapon, and they were not really making a move to become very powerful in the region. And then, because Saddam Hussein was there until 9/11, and then 9/11 happened, and then the U.S. went to war, and they went after Saddam Hussein, and they took Saddam Hussein down, and Saddam Hussein was the natural enemy of Iran. And you understand, in Iraq, majority of the people there are Shiite. So ideologically, religiously, they identify with Iran. So naturally, Iran started getting a lot more power in Iraq. And now when they have no more real opposition against them, they start aiming for a nuclear weapon.
So taking down Saddam was a mistake.
But absolutely.
Well, it was a total mistake.
Total mistake.
Yeah.
A total mistake. It's interruption that should never really happen. Anyhow, and they wanted to really go after Israel. Iran doesn't share a border with Israel. The distance between them is 1,500 kilometers. They have Iraq and Syria in between them. But they wanted to start really choking Israel. So what they did, they started building Hezbollah in Lebanon as an army, train them, give them weapon, and creating this organization that became stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger. And simultaneously, when Hamas took over the Gaza Strip, eventually after Israel pulled out, there was an election, the one and only. They took it over, and from 2006 they start giving them weapon. Now, each one of these organizations have an agenda of their own. But all of them have the mutual agenda of destroying Israel.
Correct.
So it aligned with the agenda of Iran. And for them to have a proxy army in the north, in Lebanon, which is Hezbollah, and one in the south with Hamas, it really helped them start slowly choking Israel. And the grand plan was to build it more and more and more and more, and eventually wage war on Israel, together with Iran, with having a nuclear weapon, and eventually really annihilate Israel. And they said it again and again. They were never shy about it.
Yes.
They always said it. Everybody knew that this was their agenda. And Israel have tried to stop the nuclear weapon in so many ways. But again, they continue doing it.
Well, we still listen to opinions, for example, in Europe, and mostly of countries that are of socialist belief, that Iran is only want to harvest clean energy.
Yeah, right.
So, it's very hard to believe.
Why would they want clean energy?
If they have all that oil of the world.
They're one of the biggest deposit of oil in the world. Why would they want clean energy? They don't care about clean energy. That's the last thing they care about. So absolutely not. It's ridiculous. And it's proven, because even if you want for clean energy, you develop uranium only to a certain level. They suppressed it a long time ago. So, but what happened? Hamas declared war on Israel, and Israel really like decimated them. Then Hezbollah jumped in, and Israel decimated Hezbollah. They really make it a really non-player anymore. So now Iran was left with no more proxy. They're feeling now naked. They feel threatened. So they realize
Because you have the Houthis.
but the Houthis are very far, not
How
really
far,
big there.
yes.
They're like 2,000 kilometers from Israel. They don't share a border. It make a really big difference if you share a border or you don't share a border.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So the Houthis are 2,000 kilometers to the south of Israel. They can send a missile and Israel will shoot it down. So it's not such a big threat. So now they feel vulnerable. Now they feel, okay, what should we do now? And they know the only thing that will give them protection is getting nuclear weapon. So Israel, Mossad, and all the intelligence really was watching them very, very closely, and they realized they're really rushing to get the bomb. And if they get the bomb, it's a game changer. This is it. It's basically North Korea, but in the Middle East, because it's a regime that doesn't care about having peace with neighbor. It's a regime that is really focused on war, on death, on killing. So they knew it's going to be Israel. Knew it's going to be a problem. It knew it is a point now. It's a point of time. It's either we do it or we won't exist anymore. Because Iran will use eventually a nuclear weapon. When you are motivated by extreme religious ideology, you will tell yourself, okay, I can shoot one nuclear bomb on Israel. And Israel is a very small country. So one, doesn't matter where.
That's it. You don't need more.
It's over.
Right.
Iran is a huge country. So even if you get several of them, you'll suffer, but you'll survive. And they're so crazy. They're so extreme that they will consider doing that if they feel the need to do that. And this is something that Israel could not afford. And by the way, every Israeli in Israel knows and believes that. Nobody criticized Netanyahu. Not even his most bitter political rivals are criticizing him now. Everybody completely
stand behind him,
saying this is the right thing to do. You can speculate other people, it doesn't matter. Everybody knows it's the right thing to do. And all the population, I mean, my family in Israel, they're running every night to shelters 3-4 times a night. None of them complain. None of them complain. If I go now to Israel, I will go to Israel to be with them. But none of them complain. None of them say, why would we do it? Nobody's saying it. Everybody really understands that we need to do that. And it's been brutal. Israel, the civilian population have never, ever, in the whole history of Israel, have been bombed the way they've been bombed now.
The way they've been bombed now, correct?
Never like this.
Yes.
One missile hit my own hometown, about half a mile from where my father lives. It took out 60 buildings, 20 of them beyond repair. They have to be demolished. And this happened in several locations. Okay?
Yes.
But no Israeli is criticizing it. Everybody really understands that this is the right thing to do,
That's the right
which is pretty amazing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If you think about it, it's really pretty amazing.
What we see also that you think it's what's going on now at the moment was the right time, or you think maybe it had to happen before? Was there an opportunity in the past that was missed? I mean, to get this straight?
The problem with that is, we go a little bit on the philosophy of war.
You think that public opinion has to do with it?
It's really got to do with Israel don't want to fight wars. They'll fight it if they really have to. Because every war, you know how it starts, you never know really how it ends. And the war with Iran can go both ways. It can go very good, or it can go really bad. I mean, this conflict can escalate to World War III, and everybody understands that.
Yes.
It's very, very, very scary. It's really scary. But then again, what you're going to do? You can't let them have it, and then they're going to use it at you. And there might have been more opportunities in the past, but Israel always believed that, okay, they're not close enough for us to do that. Okay, and we have the U.S. trying to negotiate some kind of an agreement, and there's still more and more time for diplomacy. They got to the point where they realized, okay, there's no more room for diplomacy. They're rushing to get it, and this is the time to do it.
Having Donald Trump as an ally,
and definitely having
that's key.
That's key.
Correct.
Absolutely key.
Because with Biden, it would have never happened.
It would never have happened.
With Obama, it would have happened.
never,
with
never
Clinton,
happened. Never
with
happened.
the Democratic Party,
It would have never happened.
why do you think is there's a difference between the Democrats and Republicans about Israel? Where lies this change of opinion, do you think?
Why you have socialistic government in all over Europe? Why they're doing all that? Why they allowing immigrants to come in and change the core of the country? Why? And I'm thinking about it. And honestly, the only reason I can think about
What's the plan?
the only reason I can think about why it's happening is I really think that just life has been too good for too long, and they don't realize what danger is. They don't realize. I look at these kids protesting against everything that's happening, and they're clueless. They're really clueless. How can you support Hamas, a terrorist organization? And these kids are liberal kids. They want freedom and all that. There is no freedom in Iran. There's no freedom in Hamas. There's no acceptance of anybody over there. It's either you accommodate to us or we kill you. That's really the way it works over there.
There's no choice, really.
There's no choice. So I really think this is what's happening. And you have people that don't see the world like that. They still have old school values, call it. And then you have the progressive, the modern one, who really believe there is ultimate justice. And if anybody complains about something, he's been unjustice, we need to listen to them. And this is what happened is, whenever if somebody is weak, then he is right automatically. That's what happened. And it's a very, very wrong and distorted view of the world. You can't look at that like that. I'll give you an example. If you walk in the street and you see a gang of small kids, and the small kids at 4, 5, 10 years old, and they have guns, and you just saw them shooting a family, and now they're coming to shoot your family, what would you do? What would you do? The kids.
Yes.
Never think about killing kids, but would you shoot them? Would you fight with them? Yes, you will. You have to. So just because you being small or weaker doesn't make you right automatically. But this is the dogma. This is the thinking in the West, that if you're small, if you're weaker and you're fighting somebody bigger, then automatically you're right.
So we can say that the U.S. drifted away from what the Second World War really represented for them.
Absolutely. Not just the U.S., all of Europe also.
The entire Europe, correct?
Yeah, the entire West. The entire West. They really drifted from it. And I'm watching it, and I'm just amazed. I am amazed of what's happening over there.
Televidentes, está aquí el nuevo programa Alcaso. En verdad, no estoy mirando, y quizás, ¿qué como opinión me está? Irán tiene cierto derecho y razón para hacer lo que está haciendo? ¿O es una pregunta nos puede hacer para Israel? Sei mais, Kiko vai estar o final de consequência de guerra aqui e de que maneira pode influenciar bom ou malo o resto do mundo, o resto do tempo. Sei mais. Vamos back no beleza. Okay, so when we make a judgment of the development that Iran has been having the last years, the last decades, with arms, they have developed a very respectable arsenal of weapons. How can you put that in perspective? How can you know where were they heading with the armament they have? Because when we look an invasion on land, you can't do that. I mean,
1,500 kilometers. You can't. Neither country can invade the other one. They will be detected well before, and then an air force will take it out. So none of them can do that. So the ballistic missile program didn't just start for Israel.
Was a good choice for them.
For them,
yes.
For what they want to do, but it did not start with Israel. Actually, it started with the war in Iraq, because they were shooting at each other ballistic missiles because neither country have a strong air force, so they developed missiles. So and then they really focus a lot of their efforts on building missiles, the missile system, and nuclear weapon, because they don't have a strong air force. They don't have a strong air force at all. So the only way they can reach far is by building missiles. Israel, on the other hand, have defensive missiles. They don't have land-to-land missiles. Israel, as always, from the establishment of the country, have put a lot of efforts on establishing a very, very strong air force. And it's a known fact in the world that the Israeli Air Force is one of the best in the world. And you see what's happening now. I read an article in one of the newspaper. The Israeli Air Force was able to achieve in Iran in 2 days what Russia wasn't able to achieve in Ukraine for 3.5 years. So basically, they achieved complete air dominance in Iran in 2 days. They had
Air superiority.
air superiority completely. They were able to annihilate every battery of ground-to-air missiles, every defense, every radar. They had prior knowledge of where they are. The first attack was to take all this out, and then slowly, more and more, and then just now they have free reign.
But
they can do whatever they want.
Most for the other countries that maybe want to adopt the same missile system, they would know by now that having good cover for the launchers and the launch trucks is essential.
Right.
Because you can be sitting on thousands of warheads, but if you don't have the way to launch them,
right,
and that is what's happening now.
Right. Because what Israel did, they go after the launchers themselves.
Yeah, that was a mistake.
And they go by whom? By the Iranian?
Yes.
Well, they don't have a choice. They have to take it out to shoot. So they have 2 ways of shooting it. They can shooting it from mobile launchers, which they can move. Remember, Iran is a huge country, so it's very difficult to detect them. I don't know how Israel does it, but they're very good at that.
But when you think, for example, Nosh, that they have tunnels deep 200 feet below the mountain,
Yes.
where they're storing all these rockets.
Yes.
They should have made for the launchers as well.
I know.
Because now that the launchers don't have where to go,
Right.
was an easy pick.
Right.
Since you don't have air superiority.
Right. It is. And Iran really made a lot of miscalculation because they did not believe that Israel will attack. They did not believe that Israel will attack them. They were very arrogant about it. They were very dismissive about Israel. They really did not believe that they would attack them. Israel in the first attack, they took out.
Well, they were convinced they were negotiating.
Well, yeah. Well, Trump said 60 days, and Israel attacked on the 61st day.
Aha, okay.
That's it. That's exactly what happened. And they didn't believe it. That even though there were warnings all over the place.
They gave them 60 days.
They gave them 60
At
days.
the 61st day?
And Israel attacked on the 51st. And they did not believe that Israel will attack. So this is how Israel was able to get a lot of the top commanders of the Iranian army right in the beginning. They were not even hiding. They were in their apartments.
And that question I have for you too, because when we look at the way Israel handled Hezbollah
With the beepers.
was topping off the head, all the heads.
Yes. They did 2 things.
And now they did exactly the same.
Exactly, yes.
What is the intelligence behind that? Well,
it's incredible. It's really incredible. But Israel have one of the best intelligence services in the whole world. And because Israel is very, very focused on tech, they have their way. They really have their way to find everything. They have very good, the army have very good intelligence, and the Mossad is very, 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 very capable. And the way Israel in general work, the way the army works, is they give you room to come up with ideas. They give you room. Part of the Israel culture is to always challenge. Always think, okay, we can do it better. I can do it better. Always thinking outside the box. So look at what happened with Hezbollah, the beeper operation.
yes.
It was pretty amazing. They worked on it for about 8 years. They really built the whole thing. They really built a real company. They went after them.
It was a plan.
It was planned for years in making. But to think about it, imagine the person who actually envisioned that.
Can you maybe add more plans that are still pending execution?
They for sure
I would
have
say,
it.
I mean-
They for sure have it. Even in this operation, there were Mossad agents in Iran, on land in Iran, helping orchestrate and hitting missile bases. Imagine.
And
1,500
autobombs.
kilometers. I'm sorry?
And they've been exploding autobombs
Yes,
as well.
yes.
Yes.
So
Targeting specific.
They really think outside the box. They are very, very, very brave. And the mentality is like, there's nothing we cannot do. There's nothing we cannot do. We can do everything.
We notice now that Khomeini wants a ceasefire. So, and another part is the political part is trying to survive the regime. They want to try, because I'm hearing a lot the word regime change.
Yes.
It's not the responsibility of the Israeli,
No.
but there's enough citizens from Iran that wants to change.
A lot. A lot.
What can you say about that? How can you rate? Maybe someone here in Aruba is listening to the program and judges the Iranians want their government. They support their government. Is that true?
Some of them still support the government. I think they have about 30%.
And of course, you have a group that will.
About 30% that really support them.
20%.
20%, okay.
Okay.
A lot of them don't. Even some religious one, Muslim religion, still don't support them. And the way the Iranians survive internally, because they have the Republican Guard. This is the army that deal with outside threat. And the way they're controlling internally, they have the internal police. They call the Basij. And there were few uprisings. The last one was 2022. And there were riots all over Iran, all the countries. And the way they control it is by brute force. They shoot them, they kill them, they arrest them indiscriminately, they put them in jail, they torture people, they execute, they make people disappear, and that's how they control them. It's really, really by fear.
And that's really their expertise.
That's really their expertise.
That is their expertise.
So
instead of war.
So what Israel is doing now, because this morning Israel bombed the headquarters of the Basij, and I believe this is the beginning of the end
of the downfall.
Of the downfall. Because once they're going to make the Basij weak enough, all it takes is the spark, and you have the uprising, and then and you look at every regime that fell, it happened very fast. It happened very fast. Look at Syria.
That's right.
It was a week. It was a week, and Assad was on a plane.
Everybody is thinking about Gaddafi at the moment.
Gaddafi, same thing. Ceausescu in Czechoslovakia, it was Romania. Same
that
thing.
was 24 hours.
24 hours. Once it happens, it happened very fast. Very, very fast. I really believe and praying that by the end of next week, it's going to happen.
Over.
It should be over. I really believe so. I really, really believe so.
You think the United States is going to be involved militarily? I know Donald Trump is talking a lot, but
I think
we know who the guy is by now.
Yeah. If it was up to him, he would have done it. I think there are a lot of other consideration that he take, even within his own party, with his own camp. There are people pushing against it, and I can understand it because his whole motto was no more war.
He has the midterm next year.
Yes, no, he doesn't have. This is it. That's the last time.
No, the midterm elections.
Yes.
Can influence Congress.
Yes. So he needs to consider all those things. He's itching to do it. I'm sure he wants to do it. And I think there's a good chance it's going to happen next week. It depends. If the regime would fall, they won't do it. Maybe if the regime will not fall, then they'll do it. So I think what they were talking, I'm assuming, of course, I know nothing about that, but I would guess that his advisor told him, just wait. Just wait. Let's see what's going to happen. Maybe the regime would fall. If the regime falls, we don't need to do it. So they can always do it. Everything is ready for them. They put all the assets where they need to be. They have all the bombers. They have everything. It's just like him picking up the phone and saying, go for it. But I think they're waiting to see what's going to happen in the next few days.
What has happened at the moment that really puts a lot of people to think. In January, China and Russia signed an agreement with Iran for protection. They had a cooperation agreement.
Right.
And nor China nor Russia are helping at the moment.
Of course not.
And none of the proxies are doing anything as well. What do you think? What do you think that is happening?
So the proxy is not doing anything because they've been weakened severely by Israel. Russia is deep to the neck in Ukraine. So China is the biggest threat.
It's more careful.
And China is more careful, and they're the biggest threat. But yeah, as I said, war, how they start, you never know how they're going to end.
That's correct.
So if Russia will feel, if China would feel that Iran falling and there's a change of regime over there, they're going to be more Western aligned, and they're going to feel they're going to believe at least that's going to really threaten their position in the world, they might get involved. You never know. And I think this is part of the reason that the Trump camp said, okay, wait, because the ramification of this kind of involvement can be so big on a world scale. So I think they're waiting to see if there's going to be a regime change, because I think it's going to be a regime change, and there's no need to bomb them.
And you can see that the intervention, the military intervention from Israel to Iran is very surgical.
Very.
They are protecting the civil population
As much as they can. They are releasing evacuation orders to certain neighborhoods in Tehran. They're okay, we're about to bomb over here.
The same what they did in Gaza.
The same what they did in Gaza. And Lebanon too. Yeah. As much as they can. Of course, people are always going to get hurt, but they're trying to minimize it as much as they can.
Correct.
Because they're not aiming to really hit the civilians. They don't want to get the civilians.
That's correct. That's not the purpose of war.
It's not the purpose. It's really not the purpose. They don't want that.
How can you look at the new world order if there's a regime change in the Middle East? What can you see forthcoming for the area?
Israel will have peace with Saudi Arabia very fast. Israel will have peace with, most likely with Lebanon. Take that 2-3 years. But the Hezbollah will get no more funding, so they become weakened, and they can make peace with them. Probably Syria. Eventually, there's a really good chance.
Syria has started already.
It started. People don't trust him yet because it's an ex-terrorist. So prove yourself first.
They've got to prove themselves.
But there is definitely a chance. Then once you have all this and peace with Iran, Israel can actually have peace with Iran.
Correct.
And everybody will benefit from it.
Like it was before.
Exactly. There's very close cooperation. And that will strengthen the Middle East. It will be really good for everybody. That will strengthen also the US, because now the US will have a lot more allies and a lot more control in the Middle East, which is going to be China's biggest problem.
Correct.
So this is why you need to look at it from that perspective. This is why I think as much as Trump wants to jump in, I think he's thinking about all those things and considering it, because the ramification can be very, very big. It either can be very good or very bad.
More or less all the time. I still would like to give you the opportunity to explain a little bit of Israel, especially on the opinion. You know, this opinion that has been built during these last years, putting Israel in a bad light. How would you defend yourself to that?
I think Israel has been judged in a very, very unfair way. I think it's very easy to judge from the outside, okay? But I really believe that any country that will be in the same position as Israel, when you are attacked by a terrorist organization, and he go into your country, invade your country, he kill, he torture, he brutalize, he rape over 1,000 people, okay, and then kidnap 250 people. There is no country in the world that will not declare an all-out war on that country. To say anything less than that is just pure hypocrisy and lies. Really. And if you look at it from that perspective, that's the truth. It's a fact. And it all can stop. It all can stop if Hamas will say, okay, fine, here, take all the hostages back, and we're going to step down. It can stop, okay? But what choice Israel have? They're still holding 53 people, and they're saying again and again, we will do it again. Correct. They're saying we will do it again.
Yes.
So what choice Israel have? Any country in the world, if you look at the fact, okay, any country in the world will do the same, most likely even worse.
Correct.
Even worse.
Moshe, I would like to thank you for accepting the invitation. And I'm surely looking forward, maybe in the near future,
okay, sure, no problem,
to talk about the new direction that's taking place in the Middle East. Thank you very much.
Let's hope it's going to be positive.
Sure.
Yes.
Tu estás acá, pues, e forma aqui, nós podemos ter opinião de uma pessoa de Israel, que estava militar, está gerente de várias correrias na região, pero para poder sentir Kiko está come e bebe do coração de cada israeli nel momento aqui. Danke per me, danke per escucha, sperando di poter informare debitamente e non sta despedire. Ti ho trovato. Dios quiere.